Hello, and welcome to Awkward Family Conversations, an intergenerational discussion of topics of interest mainly to millennials and Gen Z Zoomers. I am here, as always, with my younger daughter, Addie. Addie, when she was younger and living at home, I gave her my laptop when she went into junior high, and she used to have to print out the weekly menu plans. And one day, so the weekly menu plans not only included what was on the menu, it also included activities so that we could know how to plan menus. And so we'd write in the activities that each of us in the household had on those days so that we'd know when volleyball practice was, or swim team, or when I was working late or traveling or whatever. And I had my work computer, and Addie had our home computer. We're using that. And one day she printed out our menu plan, and on every single day of the week was written "Being Awesome" under Addie's line. And pretty much every day you were awesome. So I guess you were able to make that a reality. So welcome, Ad, and hello.
Hi, Dad. It's true. I'm kind of awesome, so it makes sense.
Yes, you are.
Well, hi, I'm Addie. I'm here with my father, Rhett, who, in the spirit of Christmas, is going to share some Christmas trivia. And all that I have to say is, Rhett is very hard to buy gifts for. That's really it. He usually just ends up with a lot of candy because that's about what everyone's like. Yeah, he'll eat this.
Yeah, I don't need a lot of things. It's true, and I don't like waste, and so. Yeah, it's. I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
So,
but I got good gifts for you this year, so.
I'm looking forward to it. Very good. So, what is our topic of discussion today, Addie?
Our topic for today is how do I eat healthily? Healthy.
How do you eat healthy? Well, that's really not a problem for you. You eat pretty well, but we do know that from our first episode of this season that Americans eat less than the recommended amounts of vegetables, fruit, whole grains, dairy product, and oils. 90% of Americans eat more sodium than they should, and 78 million US adults are obese. So there are many people out there who are not eating very healthily. And that is a big problem for us. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in general. But you've always, as a kid, you've always eaten a wide variety of foods. As a kid, you weren't thinking too much about it, but what's your journey been in terms of nutrition? Because that's been something that you've become very conscious about over several years. And how did you do that? How did that evolve for you?
I think I said in the first episode that it was always kind of easy because you raised Callie and me with very balanced and diverse diets. Like a lot of people I know grew up with frozen meals for dinner every night, whereas you guys always did like some kind of protein, some kind of vegetable, some kind of grain or starch. It was very typical for like broccoli, quinoa, salmon, or like chicken, asparagus, potatoes. It was typically 3 portions of a meal. So I kind of just like developed a taste for balanced diets first off. So I was set up with an advantage from the beginning. And then went to college, got really sick all the time. And then going through, I wanted to go vegan, but it's hard to go vegan without any sort of nutritional awareness because you have to be very conscious of what you're choosing to eat. Because if you just eat pasta for every meal, you're not going to feel good. Looking at you, 18-year-old Addie.
Mm-hmm.
And then also going through all of my various health debacles, I had to go through weird diets and elimination diets and things like that. Just so I had to keep really close track of like what was in everything I ate, basically. So now it's turned into just kind of the back of my mind, just trying to keep everything I eat balanced. And then it also helps that like it's what I've been eating my entire life and over the past 4 years now, actually. Being vegan is just kind of what I like now.
So yes, we should probably mention that you did have a number of food allergies and sensitivities that you worked through in college, which isn't ideal. the ideal time to be doing that with the common kitchen and cafeteria and stuff. With you've got a gluten allergy, lactose. You struggled with lactose for a time, so these were things you had to work through. So your nutrition journey wasn't a smooth one. And,
You could say nutrition was thrust upon me in a certain way.
yeah, I mean, that's true. When to deal with the issues you had to deal with, you had to find solutions that worked. And you also had sort of the the vegan piece, the you didn't want to use animal products, didn't want to consume animal products. And that was really more of a values-based decision, more than it was a health-based decision.
Oh, yeah.
But but you still, I mean, you had to kind of layer that in on top of a couple of other outstanding issues around dairy products, around gluten and grains. And so, it's tough anyway to eat well, eat healthily. And we'll talk a little bit about why that is for a lot of people. But, when you layer on kind of the challenges that you've had to manage and navigate as well, I mean, on the one hand, it forced the hand, right? I mean, you had to learn how to eat well because you had to know what was making you sick.
Yeah.
And there were times where you had to cut out all kinds of sugars and things just so that they could do an assessment.
Never.
Yeah, not a fun time, but that's
if it comes out that not eating sugar adds like 5 years to your life, I will take the L on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather live 5 years shorter and eat sugar.
Well, I certainly hope that's not the case, because that would not bode well for my life expectancy if sugar was a shortener.
I feel like if sugar was the thing taking years off your life, I don't think you'd made it to 60 with how much you've consumed.
That is very possible. That is very possible. We'll talk a little bit more about that too, but I do like sweets, for sure. So, well, that's thank you for sharing that. And that's in doing our 2 minutes of internet research on this topic this week, what I found was there's actually a pretty consistent message about eating healthy. There's not. It's simple, which is not to say easy, but it's simple. The way to eat a healthy diet is pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of variation, and there's not a lot of experts saying a lot of different things. They're all pretty much saying the same thing, and that's basically comes down to a handful of things. One is eating fruits and vegetables. That should be about half of the food volume that we all eat, and only 12% of Americans actually eat that amount. 12%, which means 88% are not eating enough fruits and vegetables. So half your food volume should be fruits and vegetables. Those are nutrient-rich foods and calorie. So they're nutrient dense, but calorie light. Vegetables and fruit typically don't have the same calorie count that a similar portion of grains in particular, but also proteins, would have. So you can eat a lot more of them in terms of volume, and still, because the per calorie or per unit calorie count is lower, you can eat a lot more and still hit your calorie counts. We'll talk about calorie counts in a few minutes. But the first thing, probably the most important step you can take if you want to eat more healthily, is eat more fruits and veggies. The second thing really is about drinking water. Hydration, really, really important. And drinking water helps your digestion system. It hydrates your cells so that they work better. So it doesn't mean you can't ever have milk or sodas or wine or beer or anything, but really what you should be drinking most of the day is water. If you drink water, and I think you're supposed to have 8-ounce glasses a day, 64 ounces of water, which is about a gallon, I think. But spread across the day, then your body is got the hydration that it needs. And the way to tell that is just when you go to the bathroom, when you pee, it should be clear to very light yellow. So that's the way to know if you're getting enough water, is look at your urine. So those two things.
Right there.
You don't drink water?
I love juice so much. All I want to drink is juice.
Juice is calorie dense and nutrient poor. It doesn't have a great number of.
Awesome.
It does taste awesome, but you know why? It's because it's full of sugar, and it's concentrated sugars, and so it's Yeah, juice is not a great thing to have, but water is. So a little bit of juice is fine. A little bit of anything is really fine. But
I've started doing like half glass of juice, fill the rest with water. So watering it down and
okay.
it still tastes good because water is boring.
Well, water is boring, but I have to say, having done it for many years now, as my primary source of drinking, you come to expect it. When I first started drinking water, it was terrible, and I had to force myself to drink. I'd get a big pint glass, 2 pint, whatever I guess a pint glass, 16 ounces of
Mhm.
water, and I'd force myself to drink 3 of those a day, and then I'd have otherwise I'd have it, and I did it when I was at work, and I made myself drink it. But then after doing that for a while, I noticed when I didn't have it, I'd get thirsty and I'd need it, and the body would start demanding it. So your body will definitely adapt to it, but there is there's that period of adaptation where it does get challenging, where you got to make yourself do it, but it can become a habit. Next thing you need to do for a healthy diet is eat whole grains. Do not be eating those white breads, white pastas, white rice. You want whole grains. They're using the entire grain when they're making whatever it is, whether it's pasta,
I
whether it's
will
bread.
say, however, if you're having a lot of stomach troubles, white rice is really good on that. It's a
Yes,
way to
this
get
is, yeah.
food in your system and not upset it.
Yes, because yes, when you have an upset stomach, you're out of balance and you need something very
Yes.
bland. And white rice, white potatoes, white pastas are good things
Little
to eat.
my little asterisk next to all of this is on an ideal day where you're doing great, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't ever eat things you enjoy.
In fact, there was another Addia trivia that I'll add. One day when we used to make whole wheat spaghetti, and we had pasta pretty much at least once a week. We'd have
Yeah,
spaghetti,
'cause it's
some kind of
awesome.
spaghetti pasta. And one time, Addie was very upset because we were having whole wheat pasta again, and demanded that we have the unhealthy pasta for dinner because she'd had it recently at her friend's house and liked it better. It was tastier. It was, she didn't want the healthy pasta. She wanted the unhealthy pasta for dinner. So,
My addition to that story is that couple years later, I want to say, you were out of town and mom was like, "Oh, my babies need more love." So she got us like the white pasta and she cooked it. And Callie and I were so mad that she got the gross multi-grain stuff. This is disgusting, mom. Why would you feed us this? And she was like, "This is the one you want." And that was when I realized that you had changed me.
yes, there it
Yeah.
is. Kid is never satisfied.
Well,
Never
then
satisfied.
that's at that point. It's just because we'd eaten whole wheat pasta every week for several years at that point that now it's like if it doesn't, I prefer the healthy gluten-free pastas to the corn pastas because they taste better.
Yep. 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 So that's true. Well, yeah, we don't not having the celiac disease in me. I can eat that whole wheat pasta and whole grain breads, and I do love them. Those are really good. But anyway, use the whole grains if you can, and experiment with your grains. I mean, we tend to eat a lot of rice, but there's quinoa, barley, all kinds of other
I
great
can't eat
grains.
barley.
You can't eat barley, but there are kinds of other great grains out there that you can use in place of rice.
I'm
And
being
so,
disrupted.
yes, Claire the cat, our audio intern, has made her appearance. So
She was napping. I thought she was going to make it the whole time. And then she came over here and started screaming and poking me in the arm. So
I see. Very good. All right. So fruits and vegetables, water, whole grains. The next thing in a healthy diet is lean proteins. So your body needs proteins. Plant proteins going to be pretty lean. So things like beans and soy and those sorts of things. Lean meats, so turkeys, chickens, certain seafoods. There is lean cuts of beef and pork, things like London broil. Beef side are very lean. So the whole point here is to reduce fat. We'll talk about fats in a few minutes, but fats are an important part of your diet. You need them, but they are very calorie dense, and they can come, especially in animal versions, with cholesterol and other things that are not as healthy. So you want to stick with the lean proteins, definitely. Eggs, low fat dairy is those are all decent sources as well. of lean protein. So fruits and vegetables, water, whole grains, lean proteins, and to the extent you can, when you're talking about fats, you want to stick with plant fats, because they're preferable because they tend to come without cholesterol and these other, we'll call them side effects, but these other attributes of animal fats. So nuts and
Typically
seeds,
unsaturated.
avocados. What's that?
Typically unsaturated.
Right. And so, yeah, which tends to not have the same kind of impact on your health. So you want plant fats are preferable, but you're going to need a little bit of fat in your diet anyway. So think salad dressings, vegetable oils, olive oils, anything like that. Nuts and seeds, peanut butter,
Potato
cashew
chip.
butter, all that stuff. Nuts have oil in them. So those are you're going to want to include those in your diet. And then the thing that you kind of overall need to think about is whole foods, not processed foods. So whole foods are things that are in their natural form when you take them and prepare them. Things that are not in their natural form are things like cereals and hot dogs and the cereal bars or protein bars. And I mean, a lot of that stuff, even though it can have a good nutritional profile, those are not whole foods, and you don't want to make those the primary source center of your diet. So
Also why I discourage people who ask me about being vegan from the health aspect to model their vegan diets after me if they want to be super healthy, because I really do like a good Beyond Burger and vegan cheese, all of which are processed foods and roughly nutrient the same
yeah,
as eating meat. There are a couple differences, but it's not
right,
that big a deal. So often I'll talk to people who are interested in going vegan because they want to lose weight. And it's like, well, you probably shouldn't go vegan, but instead go whole food plant based.
right,
So you're not just cutting out meat and dairy and being like, oh, now it's fixed.
right.
It's like
Yeah, yeah,
that's not gonna get you somewhere. And like you can live however you want to live on whatever diet you want.
yeah. Yeah, whole food, plant dominant, I think is probably two things that if you're trying to eat healthily, again, this is pretty straightforward, and the experts all seem to agree. Fruits and vegetables, whole fruits, whole vegetables if you can. So cut up your own, get squash pieces or whatever. But yeah, things processed foods, your chicken McNuggets, very highly processed. Your fast food burgers and things processed. Stay away from fried foods. Stay away from fried foods or processed foods, or I guess they have to be. They can be prepared in a way that's in terms of the way they're prepared. They don't have to be processed, although much of what's fried is processed. But anyway, yeah, just whole foods, plant dominant, lean proteins. The more plants you can get in at the expense of animal products, probably the healthier the better the health benefit. But I worked with a guy too who was vegetarian, and he struggled with his weight a lot because there is a lot of vegetarian food that is processed. These are potato chips and all kinds of stuff that aren't still high in fat. That nutritional profile, they're not nutrient dense. I mean, again, when you're looking at a diet, you want half your plate to be fruits and vegetables and as many different colors as you can get in there. Purples and greens and oranges and reds, and get as much of that different colors as you can get, because the colors tend to correspond with nutrients. About about a quarter of your plate or so should be proteins, and it can be a combination of meats and plant proteins like like a soy or like beans, legumes, those sorts of things, and then just a little bit of fat. And I'll tell you why, because when you start talking about calories, which is how your body uses, it's the unit of measure of energy that your body uses, is it expends calories. And so it stores calories as well. It stores calories from food. You'll find that there's three kinds of macronutrients. There's carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. You want probably just half to just over half of your calories to come from carbohydrates. You're going to want about 30% from proteins and about 20% from fats. Now, the thing to remember is that fats have about twice as many calories per gram than either carbohydrates or proteins. And so when you're looking at 20% of your calories being from fats, that's probably 10% of the volume in fat, because each unit of fat, each unit of those fat is going to come with more calories than either carbohydrates or proteins, and it's about 2-to-1 ratio. So you can't eat the same. You can't think about it in terms of volume. You have to remember that calories from fats are weighted twice as heavily as calories from carbohydrates and calories from proteins. And so you want to be judicious with your fats, and remember a little serving of fats, which is not just oils and things, but also things like ice cream and cheese, butter. Those are all fats, and a little bit goes a long way in terms of calories. Typically, the American diet says that women, and this is very average, so you're going to need, it does vary by weight and for metabolism and things, and so it's probably worth going to Google and doing calorie calculator and figuring out what a good calorie count for you is. But on average, for an American, 2,000 calories a day for a woman and 2,500 calories a day for a man is kind of what, if you're in that ballpark, your weight will remain relatively flat. And you will have because your weight will remain relatively flat, what that means is you'll be burning about the same number of calories as you bring in the course of the day. So how much, so what do you eat? You try to keep it about half carbohydrates, and by volume, that's going to be more than half. You want to keep 30% protein. And again, by volume, it's going to be more than that. So about a third of your plate should have protein, and then about 20%. But remember, fats are more calorie dense. So you want about 10% of your plate to be fats. And so that's kind of what you want to eat. How much to eat? What I have found is that you want to use your palm as a serving size. So everything, one serving of something would be about what your palm is in terms of size, volume. Whether that's a serving of meat or protein or a serving of vegetables. If it covers your palm, that would be about a serving. And every serving has roughly, it depends on what it is, of course, but basically it's about 75 to 150 calories. Typically is what a serving. A slice of bread has about 100 calories. A chicken breast has about 120 calories. A chicken breast that'll fit in your hand, so a small chicken breast. A tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of peanut butter, if you spread it, it'll be about the palm of your hand, has about 100 calories. And so, if you kind of think about it in those terms, if you have 2,000 calories a day per woman, and each one is roughly 100 or so calories, you're looking at 20 servings of food during the day. Spread it out, of course, across the day there. If you eat 5 times, you'd have 4 servings per time you eat. And by 5 times is typically what you do is you eat a breakfast, have a snack mid-morning, eat lunch, have a snack in the afternoon, eat dinner. In each one of those things, you'd need about 4 servings. Now, you'd probably want to move it around so you'd get a little extra during your meals and a little less on your snacks. But those are good rules of thumb as you're trying to eat healthy and trying to eat healthy in the moment without having to go to your phone and looking up stuff and doing all kinds of calculations, which again, there are great number of apps that track that kind of stuff. So you can use that.
I used a calorie tracking app for a little bit, but then I got lazy and was just like, this is work. And I learned in that moment that 2,000 calories is a lot more food than I thought it was, especially when you're trying to eat healthily. Like my vegan diet, trying to get to 2,000 calories a day is really hard. And I know a lot of my friends who listen to this podcast have struggled with calorie counting and wanting to lose weight when they don't have to or shouldn't in the past. So going under 2,000 calories is also bad. You don't want to be at 1,500 calories a day every single day, because then it's how you end up malnourished, because you should be getting around 2,000. Just like you don't want to be at like 3,000 calories every day. You also don't want to be under. So I know that often the 2000 day calories is presented or interpreted as like maximum this many calories a day, but it's actually where you should be. You should be
Preach.
within that range, not below it. So my friends who are using this as a reason to eat less, please stop. Feed yourselves.
Yeah, it's actually, yeah, we'll talk a little bit about diet and weight loss, because weight is a huge issue. Obviously, we've got 90 plus million Americans who are obese, which means they're taking in on a regular basis more calories than they're using. 2000 is kind of that point of equilibrium. You typically need probably 1500 to 1600 just to run your body functions during the course of the day. 90% of that regulating your body temperature. And then you're going to walk and you're going to exercise and you're going to move. And, a typical person that walks 5,000 steps will burn about 400 calories just in doing that. And so, that's 1,500, 1,600 plus 400 to 500 of extra calories from movement gets you to your 2,000, and that's equilibrium. But you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're starving yourself, and starving may be too strong, but if you're under calorie, if you're under feeding yourself, under fueling yourself, you'll lose weight. But it's not, the thing about weight loss is that, the long-term weight is going to be in your fat stores. And typically your body doesn't burn that right away. It burns glycogen out of its muscles, and that stuff is replaced immediately. And so depending what exercise you're doing, I mean, the best way to lose weight is a combination of diet and exercise. And the best way to keep it off is to change your lifestyle so that you're not eating more than you need once you hit your weight. But if you take a 2000, so it takes more calories to maintain a heavier body. So if you use 2000 calories as your target, and you stick to that 2000 calories and you're overweight, you will lose weight until you get to the point where the 2000 calories keeps your body in equilibrium. Now, if you want to lose more weight than that, you can, shave it back down to 1,800 calories. And if you consistently feed yourself 1,800 calories and get exercise, you will work your way, your body will work its way down into that equilibrium, and the weight will, and that weight will be what it needs to be at that equilibrium. And so,
But it also will be slow. It's not going to be immediate. And
right.
as someone who's suffered a lot of uh, GI issues, losing weight rapidly is not a sign of success. It's a sign of something being wrong. So if you feel like, oh, I'm switching to eating healthily and oh my gosh, I've lost 5 pounds this week and I lost 10 the next, I'm doing so well, you should probably be eating more, because
Yeah.
that's not healthy and that is bad.
Yeah, and it's not, and it will affect it's going to affect your body in a lot of different ways. Because remember, your body is going to adapt to whatever you're doing, and if you're going to not feed it calories, it's going to slow its metabolism because it realizes I'm not having calories coming in. I'm going to stop burning calories, and I'm going to get a lot more efficient, and I'm going to shut down a lot of these voluntary processes that burn calories at the same rate. It's not going to shut down the processes, but it'll slow the body processes. So you're not going to digest as quickly, and you're not going to, I mean, your body responds
A
to how
lot of
you treat it.
problems too.
Well, and it gets out of balance in that way, right? I mean, we're designed to run a certain way. And if you're not putting enough fuel in the engine is going to make adaptations, because that's what it does. The body is a dynamic organism. It's a dynamic mechanism, and it will respond to what you do. And so, there are ways to lose weight for sure and get to a healthy place. People have done it with success, but the way to do it is by, being disciplined about your calorie count, not under fueling yourself, but fueling yourself appropriately, and then letting your body find its equilibrium. And like you say, that'll come over time. When I was in college, after college, I lived with a guy who he'd gain all kinds of weight in the wintertime, and then when spring would come and Lent would come, he would stop eating basically, and he would lose a pound a day for Lent. He would lose 60 or 70 pounds every Lent because he'd be gaining that all through the fall as he was cooking and canning and everything. And he died of cancer at 52 or something, because it was, he tore his body. I mean, it was terrible. I'm not saying that's why he died of cancer, but it's certainly that kind of thing. that kind of thing is not helping. Tremendous guy, a tremendous mentor for me and everything. And I am sad that he didn't have the opportunity to mentor many more people because he had so much to offer the world. But he had a lot of weird things that he did. He drank a lot too. But that probably the thing that was the most unhealthy was that absolute calorie deprivation that he went through for 10 weeks. Now he was a very religious guy, and there could have been other religious sacrifice kind of things in his mind as well that he never shared with us. But it was, it's a tragedy really when you lose somebody who's that capable and has that much to offer. And he didn't treat his body very well. And part of that not treating his body very well was this diet that he would go on every year. And it was stunning to see the transformation. But I mean, 60 pounds in 10 weeks was, or 8 weeks or whatever, 6 weeks, however long Lent is, it was amazing to see it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Do it in a healthy way. So we talked about what to eat, your mix of macronutrients, how much to eat, the palm serving size, you get about 20 of those a day, which is a lot, and again, this is just rough numbers. There are calorie counters. I use MyFitnessPal, which is a great calorie counter, but there's tons of them out there that you can use. And then when to eat, you definitely want to, eat when you wake up, within an hour of waking up, you want to eat something to get your body going.
Do it.
And you probably want to, what's that?
So many people I know don't eat breakfast, and then they're like, it's 2:00 and they're like, oh, I have a migraine.
Yeah.
It's
you're
like,
undernourished.
life would be so much easier if you just ate something.
Yeah. And realize you haven't eaten since, probably 8-10 hours since the last time you've eaten. And your body does best with a steady flow of nutrients and steady flow of calories. And this is why we talked a few minutes ago about wanting, maybe eating 5 times a day. If you eat 3 meals, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you have a snack mid-morning, a snack mid-afternoon, that gives a nice steady, a nice steady flow of energy to your body throughout the day. And you probably want to stop eating about 2 hours before you go to bed at night so that you're not digesting a lot during the night. So this is, so that's it. It's actually pretty simple. Eating healthily is pretty simple, and yet so many people don't do it. So how do you turn your intentions to eat healthy into reality? How do you manage that?
I've tried meal plans, did not work for me. I got bored just thinking about them. For me, it's a shopping list. I have to write down what I need when I go to the store. I keep a list on my fridge. That's a little whiteboard thing. So as soon as I finish something, I write it there. So it's not like before I go to the store, I'm like, oh, wait, what do I need? So I don't end up going to any aisles that I don't need to be in while I'm at the store, which does mean that I inevitably forget things. Like I'll get home and I'll be like, crap, I needed to get vanilla extract. And I just don't ever go in the spice aisle because I almost never run out of stuff. But it's the list, and that's what I tell people when they ask me how to get on a grocery budget or how to make sure that they're eating what they want to be eating or whatever. It's like, make a list. Do the list. You save money. You save a lot of time because you just go to the store and you get what you need and you leave.
And you only have to go once if you've planned it out. So, we do menu planning, as you know, in our house. We do menu planning.
Yes, and that drove me insane.
Well, I'm not sure your mother's a big fan of it either, but the whole point is to make your intentions explicit. You've got 21 meals and 14 snacks during the week. Make them explicit. And this doesn't say that I do meal planning, so I'll put down on Tuesday we're going to have spaghetti. Now that's not exactly how it works in real life, because Tuesday will come along and we'll decide, oh no, we'll have the quinoa bowls. Well, we don't do quinoa because your mother doesn't like it, but let's say rice bowls or whatever we were going to have on Friday. You want to have those on Tuesday. Okay. But that gives us pasta then at some other point in the week to have. So you don't have to lay it out by day, but if you know that you're going to make, six dinners at home, and you know which 6 dinners you're going to make, then you don't have to think about, well, what is possible? What could I make? Because
I will also say it's easier when I was transitioning into being, or when I was vegan and also had a kitchen, we'll put it that way. So when I was home for the summer, that first summer that I essentially learned how to cook, I did use the meal plans, and it did help a lot, because then when I went off on my own and couldn't use meal plans because I'm terrible at them, and also I was in college and sometimes was eating dinner at 10 p.m., sometimes at 5, who knows, kind of situations, I knew things I liked and I knew quick things to make. So I have like a nebulous meal plan in my head when I go shopping of like, I need this many vegetables, so this many nights I can just do roasted beans and vegetables over rice. And then I need this much pasta, so this many nights I can do pasta with some sort of protein and a sauce kind of stuff. So like my list rotates around a idea of what my meals are going to be because of just like what I know that I eat and what I know I like.
Yeah,
So
and one of the reasons that we did the meal plans the way we did it with the activities on there too is that I'd know, okay, Addie's got volleyball practice till 7 o'clock on Tuesday night. So we want something simple and easy, that we can eat. She gets home, we can eat something right, at that point. And the more information you have and the more you can make these intentions explicit by putting them in a meal plan, or like you're doing, just have a sense, okay, I need 6 meals or 7 meals at home, and then I need lunches and breakfasts. And so I know I need X amount of food. The more explicit that you've made those expectations, you can plan your meals and snacks, and that way you can organize your shopping list so that you're right. You can buy just what you need. So you're saving money because you're not overbuying for possibilities. I mean, if you go to the grocery store without a plan in mind, it's kind of like, well, we could have pasta, or, oh, you know what, let's have some, let me get some shrimp, because then maybe I can do, a stir fry, and then you'll end up with 8, groceries for 8 or 9 dinners. And you only have 7 nights in the week, and one of those nights maybe you're going out or you're eating leftovers because there's just or you're tired when you get home because the day didn't quite go the way you wanted to. So that's doing the menu planning. The meal planning helps you with money, and it saves you time too, because you don't have to process when you come home. I'm going to eat one of 6 meals.
also say one of the things that's really helped me this year get enough produce in my diet is I subscribe to Misfits Market now.
Mm.
So every 2 weeks I get a box of produce, and all I have to get at the store now is like pasta, rice, spices. I don't even like go in the produce aisle. And that was always the hardest game to play, was like, okay, how many heads of broccoli do I need? And should I get this one this week? But with like the produce box, I can mix it up because I choose what I get. Otherwise, they send me 3 million cucumbers, and I don't even like cucumbers that much. Um, but I'll choose what I want, and then it gives me the ability to like kind of mix it up and get really creative some nights and make something crazy like kabocha squash gnocchi. Or it's like, okay, I've got a butternut squash and I can stick that in the oven with some potatoes and rice and put garbanzo beans on it.
Yeah.
So that really helps, and it's like the perfect amount of food. And they actually do, on when you subscribe to it, it's like, this box is good for this many weeks for this many people. So if you're 2 people in a house, you probably want the small box every week. I get the small box every other week.
Right.
And that's enough for me. They also have the bigger box for like big families kind of thing. So it's very helpful. Highly recommend produce delivery services to make sure that you get the produce you need.
Yeah, we tried that a few times, but it didn't work for us because we didn't want to take the time to learn how to prepare eggplant, for instance.
Well, mom also will throw up if eggplant touches her mouth, just like you with coconut. So
No, she's gotten better with eggplant.
really,
She does.
okay.
So but anything, basically being intentional, and it comes back at being intentional, as it would. The more you know what it is that you want, the easier it is to actually make it happen. And I find menu planning to be great. You're doing menu planning kind of in a less structured way, but with an idea at least in mind. But
It's more like, I know I need this much produce to get through the week, so I will get this much produce and do something with that much produce.
right, and that comes from experience, right? You've been doing this for a long time, so But if somebody's just starting out and trying to think, oh, how am I going to make
Menu
this
planning is a
transition?
great way to start. Yeah.
Think about, figure out the meals. And again, you don't have to assign them to the nights, but assign them, I'm going to get food for these meals. And then you'll know too, when you come home, I'm going to have one of these meals. And then as the week goes along, you're going to have fewer meals to choose from as you go through the week. And it's amazing how much time and energy it saves you. And it's going to save you a lot of money too, because you're not, as I said, you're not overbuying. and you'll be able to live your intentions a lot more easily in that way. So what gets in the way of eating healthy? Addie, when you struggle to eat a good healthy diet, what is the problem?
Um, Often mental health issues,
Mhm.
not having the energy or motivation to like get up and cook something, so just put pasta on the stove. I joke with my boyfriend that you can tell my mental health by how often I'm eating pasta. If I am not eating pasta at all, I'm having a bad time. If I'm eating pasta every night, I'm having a bad time. If
Okay.
I'm eating pasta 2 or 3 times a week, I'm doing great.
Okay. All right. Very good.
But that's kind of my gauge, is like, if I'm eating a balanced diet, then I'm doing well. But it's really mental issues. And then also time. Like that's been something recently, is if I was working the shifts the way that I work now, but was doing it 5 days a week, there's no way I'd be able to cook as often as I do. And if I had like kids
Yeah.
or a less fortunate family, it would be very difficult to
Yeah.
live the way that I live, because so much of my life is cooking and then bringing that for leftovers to work. Because if I'm trying to get food while I'm out, it's like $20, whereas my coworkers who can go get McDonald's for lunch when they don't have time to bring leftovers, it's like $5.
Right.
So
Yeah.
the cost definitely gets in there. And then all of these issues you've written down here: ease and convenience, and also emotions.
Yeah, well, that's right. And yeah, researching this a little bit, it's amazing that how many obstacles there are to eating well. And the first one, personally, right, is time and energy, right? If you've over budgeted your energy at work and you come home tired, it's going to be hard to make a meal from whole foods. That's when you start to look to the processed foods. For me, my measure is not pasta; it's cereal. There's sitting, roasting vegetables or putting together a bowl with rice and beans and things. That'll take half an hour. Um, but a cereal, I can pour cereal in a bowl and milk over it and eat it, and be done in 10 minutes, and feel full. Not the most nutrient rich, and certainly not the most nutrient diverse dinner, but and once in a while that's fine. But if you've over budgeted your energy, which is probably the thing that most of us deal with at least once a week, it's we can it shows up with the time and with the focus and the energy it needs to prepare food.
Mhm.
Access to healthy food was one that I hadn't really thought about, because, of course, we've lived in areas where grocery stores are prominent and well stocked. But there are an awful lot of people who live in places, particularly urban neighborhoods, that don't have local grocery stores with a lot of whole foods, a lot of
Even
produce in particular.
Callie's apartment before this one, she was like 15, 20, like a drive away from grocery stores. So a lot of the people who lived in her neighborhood, because it was a lower income California neighborhood, didn't have access to reliable transportation to get to good grocery stores. Like it's
Yeah, it's a thing. The
being in
food
the Bay
deserts.
community, I hear about food deserts a lot. Um, and you don't think it's something that happens in like a suburb of San Francisco in California, but it super is. Like food deserts are not just like the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Right. No, that's
Like
exactly right. The
it's national.
access to healthy foods is a very big problem for people
Yeah.
who want to eat healthy, that don't have access to convenient food. Obviously, they have access to it, but yeah, it's a bus ride away. And we've just talked about how if you've over budgeted your energy, and especially if you've got kids and extra jobs and school that you're trying, I mean, there's a lot of reasons that
Well, then it segues into your next one too, which is your cost of food. Because I mean, there's a time and a money cost. We were talking about earlier with how uh, fruits and vegetables should be most of your diet, but are less calorically dense. So in order to get, I mean, I see this in myself all the time, is in order to get the same amount of energy that my coworkers get from eating a McRib for lunch, I have to eat a lot more of my food and more
yeah,
frequently too. And I'm fortunate enough to have time to make enough food and have money to afford enough food for that. But when a burger is cheaper than like 6 heads of broccoli, but would fill you up the same, is
yeah.
kind of like you're asking, putting a lot on someone who doesn't have the ability to make that decision.
Well,
Um,
or they're just making a conscious decision. I mean, a lot of this stuff is, and the next thing, convenience, ease, what's at hand, right? I mean, if it's you could do shopping, or you could go next door to McDonald's. You're going to spend the same amount of money, but the shopping is going to take you 45 minutes on a bus ride to get out there, half an hour in the store, and 45 minutes on the bus ride back, where you can walk over to a McDonald's, spend the same amount of money, get a meal. Now, it's not going to be as nutrient rich, and it's not going to be as nutrient diverse, so it's not going to be as healthy.
Yeah.
And it's not going to have the balance of your macronutrients. You're going to be way high on fat. But it's going to give you the calories that you need to function. Then you're gonna do that. And there's a couple of pieces of the ease and convenience. What's at hand? If you've got a grocery store that's very close, that's different than having to take a bus 45 minutes to get to a grocery store. And so, but there's also habits. What you're used to requires less energy than something you're not used to. You don't have to think through if you know how to do something. If you're used to doing something, it's easier for you to do it. That there's less of a footprint, less of a resource requirement, less of an energy footprint on that. And so there's less. And speaking of costs, these are non-monetary costs, but they're energy costs, and they're very
opportunity cost.
What's that?
Opportunity cost.
Well, they're non-pecuniary costs, really. So, so not only do you not have access to healthy food, but the cost can be a challenge. And if you're in a place where, if you're in a food desert, then healthy food is going to be more expensive than if you're in an area where it's far more plentiful, just from law of supply and demands. We know that from season 1. And then also the ease and convenience of accessing food, of getting food is part of the challenge. Also, there's a chemical or biological issue. The more processed foods you eat, the more processed foods you crave. They've done tons of studies, and if you haven't seen the Super Size Me documentary, which is dated but still relevant, I think. Now, this is a guy who eats only McDonald's for a month. Every meal he eats, he's at McDonald's, and he's a healthy guy. When he starts, I don't know if he's vegetarian, but his wife or partner is definitely vegetarian, and he's eating a great diet, but he's just starts eating McDonald's and only McDonald's, so processed foods all the time. And after a week or two, he starts craving processed foods. He just can't. The idea of a steamed broccoli that's not what he wants. He wants more burgers, fries, shakes. And there is that the processed foods, the way that they're structured, high fat, high calories, create a craving. So it's probably too strong to call it an addiction, but it certainly could turn to that, I think, with enough time. And that becomes very hard when you have those biological changes in your body, where your body really starts to want those kind of things, even though it's not healthy. Then you've got a body that's out of whack. But it's hard to kind of overcome that. And then finally, probably the thing that we have all kinds of Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, all kinds of weight management, weight loss programs out there, is because there's an awful lot of learned behaviors that we've had that are tied to emotions around eating. We do a lot with food that it's not really intended to be about. Food should really be about fueling your body, giving you the calories to provide you energy, giving you the nutrients that feed your body and the tissues, so that you can use your body in the way that it's meant to. You've got the energy, and you've got your body functions well, so that you can get through your day. But we do an awful lot more with eating and with food than just that. There's all kinds of emotional components where we tie food, or we associate food with different emotions. And so we use food to punish us when we don't feel we're worthy. We'll eat really crappy things knowing that it's going to make us feel bad. This is how people sometimes drink as well. I know that I'm going to feel real crappy if I drink a lot of alcohol, but I deserve that because I've been bad, and I need to punish myself. And so I'm going to use food, or I'm going to use drink as a way to punish myself for being bad. Conversely, I'm going to use it to reward myself when I do something that I'm proud of, I'm excited. Absent another reward that's going to make me feel emotionally cared for and valued, if I don't have another source of that coming, I'm going to use food. I deserve a treat because I knocked out that report at work. So I'm gonna have a high calorie treat to reward myself for that when I accomplish something. So we use food as punishment. We use it as reward. We also substitute food in a similar way as this sort of punishment or reward. We'll substitute food for as love or approval. My mom never told me she loved me, but she always would make me cookies. That's how I knew that she loved me. So whenever I feel like I need a little shot of love, I'm going to go to a cookie. I'm going to look to a cookie because that's how I feel love. My dad never complimented me, but when my team won the Little League, we always went out for ice cream. So I'm going to reward myself, or I'm going to substitute ice cream because I want somebody to be proud of what I've done. I want to be proud of what I've done, but I don't know how to do that in a real, straightforward, emotional way. And so I'm going to substitute food for these different things. And then we cope. We use food to cope with a wide variety of things that we don't want to have to deal with, things that make us uncomfortable. So I'm angry, but I don't want to show my anger. So I'm going to stuff that with food. I'm going to eat as a way to misdirect me or to change my focus, because eating keeps me from having to deal with those emotions that make me uncomfortable or afraid. So sadness, fear, boredom. I'm bored and I don't really want to be, I don't want to do what it would take for me not to be bored or not to be angry or not to be sad or not to be afraid. I don't want to have to face those emotions, and so I will misdirect with I'll use food. But what's a better answer for these coping things is exercise and movement. Just about anything else is right, but I found myself to be far less stressed. I mean, like everybody, I think I've had all of these reactions. Food isn't really my go-to or my substitute or the thing I use to distract me, but it has food and drink both. But I found that exercising is a great way to relieve stress and to cope in those stressful times. And of course, these are stressful times. When you have feelings that make you feel uncomfortable, it's stressful. And so getting up and moving is the thing that works for me, and that happens to be a healthy behavior. And so, next time maybe that you're picking up a bag of potato chips because you're feeling like my boss made me mad today and made me feel undervalued, I'm going to eat a bunch of potato chips. Maybe go for a walk instead, and see how you feel at the end of that. So
That reminds me of some
yes,
recommended reading materials for our listeners. A book that you got for me, and I was really annoyed about because for the entirety of your running career, you've tried to get me to run because apparently my body's like built for it or something. I think it was last Christmas, the Christmas before, I think it was 2 Christmases ago. You got me this book called Jog On, and I'm blanking on the author right now. And it was really good. And she talks about how she uses jogging as her like release from stress, but she also talks about like she's not good at it. She trips over herself. She can't run more than 3 miles still after years of doing this, but it's just how she uses it because she goes through something really, really stressful. And her mind's or her body's immediate reaction is just like run away from it. So she starts running and it works.
yeah.
So that actually helped change a lot of my coping methods around. And when I had a bad day recently, I was like, I'm gonna go be self-destructive. And I was like, wait, I don't have any of those anymore. Dang it. This is stupid.
Well, I mean, you want to cope, you want to find a way to cope. But I'm glad that worked for you. Actually, that was Roger's daughter, Eloise, actually saw her, lived in the same neighborhood as she did. So
It's fantastic. I think I loaned it to Callie, and I don't think she's given it back to me yet because I loved it so much.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, there are unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy coping, and we'll start talking about these when we start to get into our later seasons when we talk about emotional health. Because right now we're dealing with physical health, but we'll be transitioning to sort of emotional and mental health as
starting
well.
next week.
starting next week. So, these will be other issues we'll raise at those times. But yes, there are healthy ways to deal with stress, and there are unhealthy ways. And unfortunately, one of the ways in the U.S. that's pretty common to deal with unhealthy ways to deal with stress is to eat, and you use food for what it's not really intended for.
Yeah.
And so, there's, when you're making a transition, if you're trying to eat more healthily, there's a lot of challenges out there for sure. But understand that it's actually pretty simple, and intention helps. The experts are pretty well, they are pretty well agreed that, you want to fruits and vegetables, water, whole grains, lean proteins, plant fats, and whole foods. If you do those things, and remember your serving sizes, because that's another American thing, is to eat more volume. You could be eating all the right things, but if you're eating high volumes, you're still going to get more calories than you need. But 20 servings a day, serving is about the palm of your hand. You'll be, and give it time. Like you said, this is a slow process, but your body will definitely adapt to it, and you'll be getting the right number of calories in the right form, with all the nutrients. You'll feel better. It's amazing the difference in quality of life. So what is your favorite healthy snack, favorite healthy meal, Ed?
I like a lot of unhealthy things.
Do you now?
I don't know. I think favorite healthy meal. This is harder than it should be.
Yeah, I thought this would be an easy question.
I mean, okay, so like my favorite snacks are like chips and mayonnaise because that is the way that I live. But because it's, vegan mayonnaise, it's slightly less calorically dense. So go team. But I mean, when I'm like, my go-to dinner is probably like some sort of roasted vegetables and brown rice. Like that's what I really enjoy. You know what? I take it back. Favorite healthy meal, sushi.
All right.
Yeah, because I can get a lot of whole vegetables. I make my own sushi often, and it's like white rice is the least healthy part of it. But if the least healthy thing you're eating is white rice, you're still doing pretty good. And then I put like avocado, cucumbers, peppers, carrots, all sorts of good healthy stuff in it, tofu, roll that all up, and then it's good. It's not processed, and it's tasty. So yeah, sushi.
Yeah.
Sushi's gonna be that one.
All right, veggie sushi sounds good.
Love rice. I just really love rice.
Yeah, well, rice is good, no question about it. So
what's your favorite?
My favorite is probably the roasted veggies. We'll put them on I like to put them on a bed of spinach and then throw pistachios or sunflower seeds. So typically roast Brussels sprouts, sweet potato, and cauliflower. I'll spice the cauliflower with a little garlic powder and red pepper flakes, but the other is just everything else, just tossed in olive oil with salt, and then put that over a bed of spinach with pistachios or sunflower seeds, sliced up avocado, and then
I really like it when you mix in brown rice with that too.
Yeah.
I remember when I come home, it's usually spinach, brown rice, your roasted veggies, and that cauliflower is no right being that good.
Yeah.
And then I usually use the Follow Your Heart vegan ranch on top with the avocado. It's so good.
Yeah, with some, again, sunflower seeds or pistachios with avocado, and it really gives a very variety of flavors and Brussels sprouts, roasted Brussels sprouts, which 20 years ago you wouldn't have had me eat at all. I just can't get enough of them. So good. So that's it. So we do have a follow-up item. We'll look up the author of Jog On and get that link in our comments section below, and we'll get that done. No bad words today again. So we may have to drop this. This doesn't seem to be a problem for us when I thought for sure it would be.
I'm doing great. Thank you very much.
We are. So good. What's that?
I live in the South now, Dad.
Okay, very good.
I'm a lady.
Well, they swear in the South, and I've heard you on the phone with your mother, and so I know that you still swear even now. So
it's casual.
What's our topic for next week?
As a wrap up for this one, just a little addendum. Is that word? I know food is a really charged topic for a lot of people, and talking about eating healthy can push a lot of people into thinking of food as good or bad, or what you should or should not eat. And I just want to reiterate that this episode is not saying that you can only eat these things and you should never eat a burger, or you should never have French fries, or you should never do a lot of the things that we find joy. Like, I mean, my favorite healthy snack involves white rice, which is not healthy. So eat what your body tells you to eat, but also when you take care of yourself, your body will tell you to eat good things. And also don't eat healthily because you're trying to punish yourself for being unhealthy in the past. One of the ways that helped me think about how I eat and wanting to take care of myself is I had a professor who put it as, you're worthy of being healthy. You are worth taking care of. You are worth staying alive and being comfortable. It's not that you're bad because you've eaten bad things in the past. It's that you are good and people love you, and you should do everything you can to love yourself. And one of those things is eating healthily.
Exactly. But you're right. And just like we talked about last week with exercise and the week before with sleep, if you're doing it 6 out of 7 days, in that seventh day, you're staying up late, or you're eating a burger, or you're having a hot fudge sundae, or you're just sitting on the sofa, that's okay. As long as most of the time, most of the time, you're doing the healthy behaviors, you're going to feel a lot better. And yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And
So
it doesn't have to function as like the rest day is a reward for working hard all week. It's like, it's all a reward for taking care of yourself. Exercising is also a reward for your body working well.
Yeah.
And reframing it has helped me address a lot of the toxic behaviors and ideas I've had about healthy eating and healthy living. And just a lot of the nerves I've had about exercising is putting it in like, if you don't do this, you'll die, as opposed to use it as a way to celebrate the fact that your body's able to do these things.
Absolutely. Good point. Good way to close. So what are we doing next week?
Next week, we are on the similar note, discussing how to have a healthy relationship with yourself, going into that mental, emotional healthiness.
All right. Making the transition. Very good.
Yes,
all right. Well, take us home.
That's a lifelong journey right there.
Mm-hmm.
That one's long. But you can find us on Awkward Family Conversations at .com. And then also on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you like to listen to your favorite podcasts, all at Awkward Family Conversations. And on Twitter, where they really like to cramp our style, at Awkward Family C1. And let us know what you think. Keep the questions and suggestions coming in comments, direct messages, and of course, text messages. And we will see you next week. I love you, Dad.
Sounds good. All right. You're going to hopefully be here next week, huh?
Yeah. Yes, a week from today.
We might be in person.
Yeah, next week we'll do this one, and then we'll have to do our special episode at some point.
Yes, that sounds good. All right. I love you, Ed.
I love you too, Dad.
Bye.